super honored. I just hit record, I hit live. So we are going live on the website. Our shows are always unedited, uncensored. You can ask the guests and myself questions during the live feeds. They're always free during the live shows. If you miss the live shows, you'll get access to the archives as a member, over 4,000 videos and audio podcasts. And we also have a wonderful YouTube channel as well. And IndigoAngel 222 has a really cool YouTube channel and a really cool website. And your website is IndigoAngel222.com. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I got that one right. It wasn't .org or .net. So last time we talked, we had a great conversation. You use certain verbiage that it's kind of far out, right? It's got a really cool ring to it, but sometimes people may not understand it. So if we're during this presentation, if you bring up certain words that spark my interest, I don't know exactly what they mean, I may stop and ask you what that is referring to. So that is also going to help the comment section, because I know people in the comment section be like, wait a second, what is a double diamond swan grid activation? It sounds really cool, but we need to know a little bit more. So thank you for being a guest. I'm looking forward to this. And folks, what we're going to talk about today is the Cygnus supernova, 3 days of light, swan grid activation. And I'm going to let you take the mic. So great to see you. How the heck are you?
Well, I'm doing really good, and I'm super excited to be here and have this conversation with you and everybody watching today, and to be able to share this message about the 3 days of light and the Swan grid template, which is a cosmic light template, a holographic celestial matrix that is encoding itself in the Earth grids at this time as we speak. It's been coming for a while. It's been coming really ultimately with the 222 codes, the higher humanitarian codes. I really downloaded this. I channeled this myself. This is my own authentic design of the Swan grid template. And I picked up on it through the 222 portal, so February 22nd, 2022, and have been riding the currents of this energy through the 666 portal. We are very much in alignment this year with all of this synchronicity of these portals. This is a prophecy. Yeah.
So what is a 666 portal? That sounds interesting.
It was June 6, 2022, and the 2022 breaks down to 6. So it was 666. Yeah. And a lot was coming up through that portal, really. We have a lot of new waves of indigos awakening at this time. A lot of indigo type 1s, type 2s, type 3s. There's all kinds of different types of indigos here on this earth, and you can be all of them ultimately. They do represent kind of a mission or a timeline in your ascension that defines an aspect of your consciousness and your spirituality that you're kind of working through and defines your mission here. And so we have a lot of 2s, 3s, 1s, 2s, 3s, all really waking up at this time, just because we are getting so much integration of gamma photonic blast radiation into the grids right now. And so a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are also waking up right now due to immunological breakdown. Okay, let's be real about that. If everything we have going on with the Jimmy Jones juice elixir and the love potion number 9, you guys, I think you probably know what I'm talking about, right? All of the symptoms from the cure. And, so I think, as people know, awakening comes a lot through when the physical body starts to break down. And we're seeing a lot of that, all over the place. So we have a lot of people coming into our higher consciousness community. I've seen a lot of heart consciousness expansion for the first time. And that's really happening through these big portals. So that's kind of current events in terms of energy that I'm seeing right now.
Okay. Now let me show the preview of some of these images you sent me. This is the return of the dove. And is this connected to what you are referring to?
Absolutely. So this is kind of like the preliminary phases of the expansion of the Swan grid. What you see here, this is the dove grid. And this comes from the J.J. Hurtak book, The Keys of Enoch. So this really represents a cosmic universal light matrix that has been hijacked by the Metatronic and the Tothian and the Yahweh systems, right? There are these particular sons of Belial, these particular Leviathan races that have basically turned against natural order. It comes down through Atlantis and, the first cataclysmic Holocaust that basically took place. And what happened was they hijacked these particular light templates. The original Dove light grid originally existed in Australia. So you could see there's one there with it expanded over Australia. This really represented the purity of that light template in the lands of Australia with the original Anangu people, with the encoded, with Uluru, the 13-dimensional organic D13 current of the Earth. This was prior to it being hijacked. That was then taken and relocated to the North Americas through the Lemurian Holocaust and was faceted down and hijacked through the selenite pylon J seals, basically, and kind of it's been hijacked ever since. And so through astrological events and through this new Earth prophecy and through this light that integrates into the grids, a lot of this hijacking will be ultimately dismantled.
Okay.
It will be dismantled, and it's going to come through many, many processes and how it is to be dismantled. There's a lot of strongholds on particular gate systems, such as the Temple Mount in Jerusalem and Giza, all of the major stargates. There's a lot of hijacked facets by particular lineages, such as like the Anunnaki Aquilans, Syrian B, Melchizedek priest. All of these types have basically hijacked particular gate sites. And so what we're seeing now is the slow dismantling of that hijacking. And so if you go back to the Dove Grid template, I want to tell you some cool things about this. There's a lot that has to be released here with the Dove Grid. So what the prophecy entails is that there will be a guardian light sweep that will make its way amongst the left to the right wings of the Dove. And we kind of seen a lot of that activation through the Freedom Convoys, like how we had those truckers that were traveling across. And that kind of sparked a lot of these freedom codes and these olive branch codes that were activating through this Dove Grid at the time. But what you can see here is this central line here that's running in the Dove. This essentially is really, really important because this is going to be the beginning point where a lot of the Masonic symbolism starts to kind of erode off of the Parliament building, starting with Winnipeg Parliament building, which is called the Pool of the Black Star. And they have basically a black granite floor underneath a copper roof. And it's kind of like a cumulative pit of rot that's fed from the banking institutions and they it's capped with a lot of that pharaonic sexualized energy with the obelisks. And what they're keeping here is Medusa's head. They basically have this cut off head of Medusa here that's in that Parliament building, similarly to like they have Medusa's head kept under the Vatican in their deep layers of pain and suffering. Basically where Satan is held, okay? And they're holding the Virgin Mary captive. And this feminine demonization, this Black Madonna, this Lilith energy at bay here. Okay, and so a lot of the pivotal points and how and why this Dove needs to be released is because
I gotta jump in. You're totally tripping me out. This is like super Matrix, super Matrix. I'm gonna tell you why. The video that's uploading next on my YouTube channel is literally titled "Origins of Black Madonna."
No way. Okay.
That is so odd because the interview that I did was with Rock Castaldo, and it was about a week ago on the website, but he talked about the Black Madonna. And so I hadn't had a chance to upload it on the YouTube channel yet. That's why you want to come check us out on the website like every day, because we're just pumping out podcasts like 2 or 3 a day. And once again, folks, they're always free on the website during the live shows, and you can ask the guests and myself questions. But anyway, Black Madonna Origins. And then I've got it set to premiere at 1:00 on the YouTube channel. And you just brought up the Black Madonna. which is fascinating. Now, I did want to point this out, though. The Black Madonna that is referred to in this podcast is actually connected to space origins, and it's nothing negative. Maybe the people that have hijacked the energy have turned it into something negative, but it's actually connected to a black meteorite.
Wow. No, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch that. I'm going to, because it's obviously really, it's a piece in my puzzle here.
Yeah. So please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just thought that was worth noting.
No, that's really, really interesting. I do feel that is probably to be that the energies are linked, because I mean, you do have that black meteorite on the corner of the Kaaba. And I think it's Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Is it Mecca? But you know, where they do the anti-clockwise spins around the black cube, you know, that's all, it's all anti-life structure architecture, and they're feeding a lot of wormholes, portal systems, and inner earth beast machines and mechanics that are basically hijacking the pillars, the inner earth pillars of the earth, and hijacking the planetary Merkaba structure, which is the spiritual light body field, to create anti-life reversal spins to siphon off of the energy of the earth and plug it into a black hole system. Okay, that's why we have so much death culturalism here. And it's because people's, basically their souls have been snatched, and they don't even know what they're feeding, to be honest with you. They're just trying to exist here. I get it. But you know, it's tough because there's so much spiritual manipulation. And so basically we need a breakthrough. Okay, freeing that Medusa energy, freeing the Virgin Mary. The Medusa represents the Virgin Mary, and the feminine lineages of the Fleur de Lys. Okay, there are implants. Okay, there are implant systems, implant networks that they've basically implanted all in the divine feminine biological body since the Lemurian Holocaust. That's what this represents. They've placed breeder harnesses on their backs. They've hooked them up to moon chains to the moon. They've forced them to breed with Nephilims, and digressive reptilian lines have basically placed these Fleur de Lys implants. And it comes from Canada, and it feeds these horizontal grids into the UK. They place these Fleur de Lys implants in the wombs of women, again, to continue to make them feed off of their sexual energies, and things like this. So it's really deep. It's really extensive. We need a deep Lemurian healing and revival and clearing on this earth for the divine feminine. A lot of females who incarnated through the Templar Anunnaki lines, to the Hydra lines, to Pleiadian lines, they're all carrying these implants to this day. That's what breast implants are. It's the destruction of the divine feminine and this natural order. Clips and clamps on the ovaries, all of these things. So we're trying to clear and heal Mary Magdalene bloodlines. And it's a great Isis awakening, and that will reveal itself more and strip more of the demonic symbolism off of things that represent the femininity, like the Statue of Liberty, all of these things, stripping demonic symbolism off of the architecture itself. And that's kind of what will happen as the dove is released. I kind of see it as like these stitches or these threads, like they need to just start pulling out the stitches and just release the dang dove grid so we can get to the expansion of the Swan, which will really clear up the hybridization traumas here on this earth. Because that's ultimately what we're all battling, is deep, deep hybridization traumas. And I can tell you about those.
So let me jump in on that. Yeah, I wanted to say, for those that are just joining us, and it might seem far out talking about these light grids and such. One of the things I find interesting is, especially on native reservations, churches are oftentimes put over these energy vortexes that the natives can tell you about. I just went to Zuni Reservation, and my friend Greg Yawakia showed me this old Catholic church that's out there, and it's built right over a vortex, literally right over the vortex. So they're tapping into that somehow, but only a few know about it. It's invisible. It's hiding in plain sight. But if you know what to look for, it's very easy to spot.
Yeah. I think it comes through a lot of colonization tactics, mass ethnic cleansings. I mean, we see it really going on right now in India with the degradation of all of the like Kali temples and just the Naga and serpent temples that they have down there. I mean, they're going down there and basically destroying a lot of these temples and then rebuilding their mosques. Okay, it's coming from the Aquilan forces, strong celestial patriarchal dominance, and reestablishing their mosque on top of these things. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's through amnesia. So because humanity's plagued with the sickness of amnesia, all is just lost and forgotten, and it kind of gets swept up into this historical account. And depending upon the agenda, if they want to go and burn down a library like Alexandria and murder Hypatia, they're just going to take all that knowledge and recreate what they want anyway. So
well, it's you learn the history, his story from the victors. You have to do you have to do your due diligence and serious research oftentimes to find alternative information. Then you have to be real careful about the alternative information too, because just because you're getting information from somebody that isn't the winner doesn't mean you're getting the truth either. The losers could be throwing out all sorts of disinformation. I'll give you an example. I used to look at the Gnostic texts as like so amazing. Like I'm referring to the Nag Hammadi scriptures that I've read. I got a book from Barnes and Noble or something like that, where they found these Nag Hammadi scriptures in a jar in Egypt in a cave in the 40s, and then they were translated. And there's some great knowledge in there. There's some fascinating knowledge in there, but to take that as the truth and then to not look at it as metaphorical in many aspects. Like if you're reading about the secret book of John, it describes the archons and demons creating the human body. But then when you read the numerology and the codes actually in the translations, like there's 365 demons that make a human body, and the mother of all demons is matter. It's like, wait a second, that's interesting. 365 days of the year. And it's got the code for days of the year, months, etc. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, is it really referring to these beings that are like evil, or is it referring to is it referring to the Milky Way? Is it referring to our physical matter and the days of the week? And it's just encoding it in a story. So I think that it's fascinating, but also I'm questioning when you're talking about this, and you're bringing up some great points, but then I'm kind of going, well, wait a second. Like when you're bringing up the mean reptilians controlling these grids or stuff like that, like how do we really know that? How do we know it's not just evil people that are blaming something that has, nothing to do with it? Now I'm not going to say they don't exist, because I've seen plenty of evidence of these beings that are reptilian when you look at old statues and figurines and you read through scriptures. But I think a lot of the stuff that's out there is disinformation also. Like if anything, I'll bet you most of them are vegan. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So I know I'm asking a lot of questions here, but how do you do you ever question stuff like that instead of saying, okay, like instead of it being Arcturian or something like that, do you ever just wonder if it's psychopaths that have been,
I definitely think it's psychopaths.
Touche. You know what I mean? Human psychopaths.
I studied a lot of literature and works. I've studied a lot of Plato and Edgar Cayce and Lise Renee and Ajahn Dean and Blavatsky. And I mean, even Sitchin, I accumulatively taken all of these cosmic minds, and then I try to dissect everything and be like, where's my truth and all this? I've even read the Gnostics. I actually think the Gnostics is pretty cool as well. I'm not too fond of the story of Sophia, and again, the demonization of the feminine. You have to understand, I come from this place. I consider myself to be a Hydra starseed. So I feel that I incarnated from the Hydra system, from Hydrobius, from Ashleisha. I feel that a fractal and a part of my monad came in as this cosmic identity. And so I represent and kind of fight for the demonization of the feminine. So I always do kind of come from this perspective where I'm like, that's some BS in the Gnostic scripture where, Sophia is now held responsible for the Aldebaoth and this jealous God and all these things. Anyways, you know what I mean? So I'm always kind of trying to dissect that and also bring things back into a place of alignment and universal peace, and, just be a cosmic mind at the end of the day. But the point that I was trying to make with all that is I just think that we are dealing with a mental body that somehow came to the earth. What I've come to know is it came through the explosion of Maldek and Mars, and that these were once war planets. And according to planetary and cosmic history, that these planets exploded due to nuclear warfare, which could have been cosmic nuclear warfare. And the fragments of Maldek came and seeded and laid the blueprint maybe about 500,000 years ago, but the mental body manifested somewhere in the second or the first or second seeding of Atlantis, which was basically a narcissistic mental body, a narcissistic predatorial mental body. And so I think that's kind of what's sitting at the top of this supposed reptilian brain structure that's hierarchical and controlling the entire world, which equates to the psychopaths, is what I kind of feel to be true.
You know, it's interesting. Once again, it's all about verbiage, right? So, and I appreciate that. Thank you for explaining that. I think that gives me a better understanding where you're coming from, and that's honorable. And so I just think the whole reptile thing, and in all reality, we all have part reptilian brain, right? We share DNA with a multitude of animals and creatures.
Yeah.
So when we label something as reptilian, it first of all, because of all of the disinformation out there, and because of the way the reptilian agenda has been pushed, and the way a lot of people think about these reptiles, it's going to automatically create this block where some people, they're going to be like, I don't know, man, reptiles and stuff. But in reality, who's to say these beings haven't been here since before us? I mean, even if you get into the scriptures and stuff, we learn about dinosaurs as being just these giant meat eaters or plant eaters that have virtually no intelligence. They're just huge and they're walking around eating stuff, right? But what if there were some intelligent beings that were dinosaurs, I guess you would call them that, but they were actually more scientist-like? And through the cycles that we go through and through the events we go through, I have a feeling if there were bipedal reptoids that were ruling the world, there were good ones and bad ones, and the bad ones ended up winning, like the whole Mars thing. There's definitely plenty of evidence suggesting that we have been to Mars. Look at Sidonia, right? Maybe we colonized Mars from Earth, or maybe we colonized Earth from Mars. But some of these stories that talk about the Watchers and the fallen angels and such, if you just change the verbiage a little bit, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that could have happened. But to put it in an elaborate fashion, the way that it's presented, once again, in that story fashion, instead of it being a person with a gray beard in the clouds, maybe it's a being that could be whatever it wanted to be. Could be the clouds, could be the entire universe, and we're just experiencing that. So I find it fascinating. I like where you're going with this, the light codes and such. I'm just looking at it more. I'm trying to kind of find the middle ground here. How do we do something about this, whatever it is that's taken over? Because clearly something has taken over. And when you can see the way that we see things, we can see through the veil of deceit. We clearly see that there's something that doesn't have humans' best interests at heart, unless it's playing this devil figure to make us the best we can be. Like there's going to be a few of us that are going to be like, wait a second, we're not going to play that game. A lot of people are just going to fall for it, but then it's going to create the best out of other people, because we want to protect our family. We want to protect the future of humanity. We don't want to see everybody turn into robots, right?
No, we definitely don't. No, I think you have a lot of really valid points. I mean, I consider myself to be hybridized reptoid as well. I mean, I come from the Hydra system. That's a serpent. I consider that to be a primordial serpent matriarchal lineage and race that came in at the time of the Dracos and has been warring with the Dracos since back 500,000 years ago, and has birthed the Anunnaki collective. The Anunnaki used to be the Anunnaki. They used to be serpent. Everything came from serpent mythology. Everything came down from the motherlands of Mu. If you read any of James Churchward's work, he talks about the Nakal people, the Nakal tablets, and how they literally believed at that time that the earth plane was governed by a seven-headed serpent god. And I think that was representative of the energy in the Pacific Ocean, that the ring of fire was the cosmic womb, that was an open portal structure to the higher seven harmonic universes, into the Laniakea systems, which anchored our true cosmic mother spirit into the earth. And they believed that this churning of the tectonic plates and the eruption of the volcanoes represented that seven-headed cosmic serpent. They wrote about this. They wrote it about the creation of woman, all of these things. Of course, all of that ancient knowledge was taken, from that time to Lemuria to India, and I think I don't know if it still exists or not, but could have been apparently the Bible and things information was taken from these tablets and altered to create the biblical stories that we have, but basically flip the perspective into an oppositional position of what those teachings were. And so I think we all descended from reptilian. We're all facets of the Anunnaki, where the collective is also Draco to some degree as well. However we define these reptoids or reptilians, they're all a part of us, and at a fractal or quantum level within our genetics. And so, yeah, it's a lot of warring in our own bloodline, constantly trying to overcome all of this degradational energy. And I think that's what we're ultimately continuing to try to clear. I think that's what these light grids are going to, as we move into future prophecy 200 years from now, the 22nd century. A lot of these hybridization trauma being, mixed with these bloodlines, who knows, maybe we're fractals of the dinosaurs in one way or another. This is where the predatorial energy comes from within us and our spirit in this, this narcissistic mental body. Maybe this comes from us being crossbred genetically in some sort of morphogenesis, some dimensional genetic happening where we've integrated the consciousness of everything on this planet. And that's why we're such a clusterfuck of identities that's trying to figure this out here. I mean,
no, that's great. I couldn't have put it better myself. A clusterfuck of realities. We are a combination. Actually, if you look at the physiological makeup of a human being versus a dinosaur, you can tell we came from the dinosaurs. Now, the question is, everything's consciousness, it seems, right? Like you could take some genetically modified bacteria and it will create its own form of life somehow. I mean, everything out there wants to survive in this world that we're in, or at least attempts to survive. So were we genetically modified? Or are we this way because of cosmic evolution and solar radiation and, just science, whatever, I mean, genetics and such? Or were there beings that actually meticulously put us together? And I think so, because we're the only species on this planet that needs clothing and shoes. And, we're so much different than the typical native animals here. And then we're out there saying that aliens are bad when oftentimes we're probably the aliens.
Yes. I've gotten a lot of visions of that, actually, seeing like Arcturians as us now, just like a future version of us, that's what we're actually going to look like in the future. I think it's interesting that the Black Madonna meteorite thing came up, because I think, according to science and things that I've read, that DNA actually seeded in this earth from meteorite impact sites. And we come through this alchemical, conglomeration of iridium and all of these really high spiritual energies. I mean, I went to the Serpent Mounds, and I was more activated, because it's a meteorite impact site. I was more activated at the Serpent Mounds than I was in Giza. I mean, it was insane. There's so much energy there. I just couldn't believe it. And so I think there is some truth, when we say we're cosmic beings, the meteorites were our rocket ships, and that was how we landed. And but yeah, regardless, there's just, there's been a lot of degradational things that have continued to, happen here. And we're trying to overcome these things. A lot of things have developed from that. When you talk about, are we are we hybrid? Have we been genetically modified? I mean, I think those stories are pretty clear in the Sumerian tablets that, you know, they've kind of admitted to genetically modifying humankind. And you look at what they're still doing with the Jimmy Jones elixir and their needle technologies, you know, I think they're still genetically modifying the collective. That's why there's such a huge portion of the collective that is so unconscious and for particular agendas that completely go against their own good, and they don't even understand it. You know, I think they've modified through this agenda in 2020, the New World Order agenda, the depopulation agenda, to turn us all into Cthulhus and basically modify our DNA more into the draconic squid-like structures that so that way they could control them through that electrical artificial hive-like impulses to stimulate and control their brains through MK Ultra and subliminal programming, and to call them back to the hive. And
must spend more money on genetically modified corn. Do not talk about organic. You will do as we say. Brought to you in part by Uncle Bill and Schwab.
Those guys are so dirty. So dirty. But they love us so much, folks. They love you to death. And, you know, it's interesting, the genetic modification. I remember back 10 years ago, I was writing about optogenetics. It was the latest technologies in science where they were actually able to control animals with light and genetically modified, I think it was genetically modified neurons or something like that. I'll have to go back and find out the exact details. I wrote about it extensively several years ago, but then that just disappeared. They quit talking about it. It was like, oh, optogenetics, what's that? I've never heard of that. And so that's powerful, to actually be able to control living beings with light. That would be very non-intrusive, right? If you didn't have to, you know, we better stay away from this. Well, this is a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
That's a whole other
I think
podcast.
it goes into the abuse of crystal technologies. And on some level, I'm just trying to link in some of the things I know into what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I know that they did a lot in Atlantis. I think, according to our history and what we can kind of tune into the origin points of some of these things, I think the abuse of crystal technology began in Atlantis. It started with the J seals and blowing up organic crystal caverns to then install artificial crystal technology to override and run reversals into the Earth's field to actually create control networks that link in particular sacred sites and control them through scatter frequency, scatter radiation, mutation, checkerboard mutation, which sends scrambling frequency into the Earth's field to scramble people's brains and heart consciousness. So that way they don't really know what the heck is going on, why they have so much fatigue, why they might black out for 3 days and don't know what the heck's going on. You know, they have all of this stuff, all of this technology, CERN, you know, opening up dimensions and pulling in spirits from other worlds and all kinds of stuff that they're doing. They're pulling up and manipulating the blue primal light ray. There's, on a spiritual level, there's two primal light frequencies that are most under attack. It's the gold seraphim ray that's been hijacked and utilized for technologies here in the physical, and it's the blue ray, which represents that Archangel Michael energy. That's the most under attack here and has been at war against these forces for a long time. They want to tamper the blue through blue arcing technologies, through blue beam projects, through they want to pull it up and use it as directed energy weaponization. And I think they're using it through the abuse of crystal technology. They're using it through the abuse of that's how the supercomputers were created, is with the abuse of crystal technology. It's how the metaverse is created. It's through the use of liquid crystal technology. Silicon Valley, everything that's running, those are singularity vortexes. They're using silicon crystal energies and technologies and tampering that, and, you know, finding ways to basically, you know, utilize it for nefarious agendas. And so when they say that the crystal generators and all these things have been done with and blown up from Atlantis, and that's just a pastime, no, it's a very evolved technology that exists today. It's just more advanced, and where we're going with it in terms of the creation of med beds and all of these things. I mean, I question the med bed technology. Like, is that really in the best interest of humanity? It sure does seem to be pushed by the Galactic Federation and the secret space programs and all of these things. So, I mean, I have this very, like, spiritual compass that actually makes me kind of stay away from those things, because I think there's still much more to be revealed when it comes to what those agendas are with those things. And it's just a lot. There's
Well, you got a great attitude about it. I guess the optogenetics haven't got you yet. Check this out. So this is optogenetics. I just wanted to show people optogenetics is an elegant approach of precisely controlling and monitoring the biological functions of a cell, group of cells, tissues, or organs with high temporal and spatial resolution by using optical systems and genetic engineering technologies. So that's a very fluid way, a very political way of saying it is a mind control technology. Notice this rat here with this light thing, this light node embedded, like surgically implanted in his brain. That allows for the control of that mouse. They can control where he goes, when he eats, what he does, how he feels. And imagine if they could do that wirelessly, folks. They would never do that, though. Trust me. Never. I think they forgot about it. They don't even, optogenetics, what are we talking about?
Take me to your leader, 5G me.
This is...
You think they would never do that, though? Honestly?
Never.
Oh, my goodness.
They would never do that to the population. They would never try and control. You think the government would try and control the population? They don't do that.
Man. I mean, I mean, yeah, what are we going to do? I mean, I like to believe that the organic systems are going to take corruption, that the wormhole systems will, I think all of these things are functioning off of wormhole systems and anti-life structures and reversals. And I think it's a matter of time. Those wormhole systems have to dissolve, they have to collapse down, and Earth can get on her way with her evolution into the future prophecy. Which hopefully is the golden age, is fifth dimension, where people are allowed to exist without 1,000 years of war. And, you know, it's a much more peaceful, harmonious existence here. And I think we all are in tune to that in one way or another. Our soul is aching for that in one way or another. And there's a reason why we all know it to be true in one way or another. So it's meant to happen. There is a timeline that is anchoring that here. And so that's kind of why I did the Swan grid template, was because I feel like that defines that happening.
And then to activate these light codes, right? To bring the level of consciousness up, to get us into the golden age, is there a way to do that peacefully?
Good question. I don't know if I really have the answer to that. I think what I believe is that the timeline already exists. It's according to your own spiritual, biological evolution and your ability to rise in frequency and also expand in consciousness. You become more of a time traveler, able to kind of leave the field of your awareness from your own body and kind of anchor and pull from those realities that already technically do kind of exist on parallel energetic fields of the earth that are integrating, and the core light grids that are building the reality probabilities for those here and now. So yeah, there's a lot of warfare going on in the 2D and the 3D realms. And I think we cannot negate or neglect those responsibility to actually go down there and be a part of the thick of the duality. Okay, and oppose certain things that go against our morality and are corrupted. Because if we don't stand and speak against things that are anti-human, then we are just handing over our own destruction, technically. But I mean, at the same time, I think everything will work its way out organically as it should. I mean, on a higher level, planetary consciousness, solar consciousness is much more advanced than human consciousness. And these are things that are beyond our control and our existence here. And I think those things are also working with humanity to help overcome the nefarious things that do exist here, even though we can't necessarily fully see it this time. Some people can see it. Some people are already existing there according to their frequency and their consciousness bandwidth. And they go there and they tune out for a while and they exist on these very peaceful parallel realities. And then they come back down to fight the battles when they need to. And, so can we get through it without war and destruction? I'm not really sure. I think we have to overcome the narcissistic mental bodies here. And that's still a lot more awakening that we have to do as a collective to get there. And so we got a lot of battle ahead of us, that's for sure. But I mean, we should take it on like with the sword of Archangel Michael, and be warriors, pioneers of injustice, and use our voices. Stop living in such a fear matrix. Go up in your 12th dimensional field, open up the control panel, and dismantle the fear programming that exists in your field. And you have to go in and start doing that work. The collective has to heal. The collective has to want to go in and look at all the bullshit that they're carrying inside themselves and start dumping it out and transmuting it and alchemizing it and getting yourself sovereign, knowing who you are. You have to know who you are to be able to stand and protect and defend against things that are anti-life architecture. Otherwise you just become a victim to these things. So it's all about taking our power back as people who hold the templates to the original organic angelic human. There's a reason why we're called to this tribalism. There's a reason why we hold empathy and compassion, because we aren't fully separated from our mother. And we have to just fight the parasitic invasion that's degrading the mother arc systems here. That's what's happening. They want to basically eliminate all of the women off of the earth. You look at what's happening with this transgender evolution, okay, and all of this stuff that's kind of happening. This is going against universal principle, gender laws, gender misery, creation fracking, CRISPR technologies. They're basically trying to install artificial wombs in men to have babies and bring babies into these artificial portals and wombs. I mean, you're going to bring in disoriented spirits and spirits that are completely disconnected from the mother arcing system. That's completely going to take our global ideologies away from this earth and probably put our butts back on Mars so we can go war it out over there again. Thank you, Elon Musk.
Well,
and I'm out. No, I'm just kidding.
That was you were definitely on a roll there, and I was like, wow, man, she's passionate. Now, Elon, I got to say, I think Elon has kind of a mixed. I'm open about Elon because his somebody that he really doesn't like, and he makes it very clear that he doesn't like this person, is Uncle Bill. And you ever hear the saying, an enemy of my enemy is my friend? So, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's got brain implants, right? But he's not forcing it. Yeah, he wants to go back to Mars, but he's not forcing it. Whereas the other people are like, you will own nothing like it. You'll eat bugs and I will genetically modify your punk ass. And if you don't get the genetically modified, then you can't go on public transportation. Your family won't want to see you because we've mind controlled them to think that you are a poisonous damage to society because you aren't tripping. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to edit this part out. So if you're watching this live on the website, that's awesome. Yeah, no thank you on the flyers. Then you got Uncle Bill and he's like, we want to help the world. I want more people to die, but I want you to take this because it will protect you. Openly a eugenicist, folks. Why? Because the TV told you? Okay. Well, because I believe in the science. I believe in political science, and I believe the medical mafia industrial complex loves me. I mean, it was medical procedure, standard procedure in the 40s. If you were married and your wife talked back too much, you said, honey, I know you're working hard, but I got a solution for you. The doctor, he says there's this thing called the lobotomy. It's a totally normal procedure. You want to go check it out? And she's like, well, I am really stressed out. I am working all the time, honey. Yeah, let's go check it out. So she gets in there and the doctor's like, oh, couple snips and you'll be fine. Then she walks out and she's like, the rest of her life. It's just medical mafia. How many times in the past has there been there was supposed to be the cure and it caused more problems than good? What about the kids that were born with no legs and no arms because the doctors were telling their parents, oh, this is a cure-all? What was that drug in the It was in the 60s, right? I think it was in the 60s. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm
It was
not
the
sure.
cure-all drug. It was the cure-all drug in the 60s. And kids were being born with no legs, no arms, half their body parts missing. So we never, why do people not think about that, Indy? Why do people not think about, why do they not realize that you look at today versus 50 years ago, and you look at all the autoimmune problems that people are having now, and then you can connect it directly to certain, well, I don't know. And they're like, no, there's no direct connection there, Rex. Just because they got all these neurological disorders and they're heavy metal vaccine.
As soon as they put out any sort of information, it gets washed up under this controversial hysteria that just gets forgotten about after about 6 months or a year anyways, because humans don't really hold a lot of strong memory or emotional attachment to those memories or enough care to go back and to remember. So I think a lot of it is just getting like, oh, we're still alive, just keep going type of thing. And, it's absolutely insane. I mean, they don't really know what's going to happen. Supposedly 2 years after all the lab rats, they did their thing on them, they were disposed of. So, what's it going to be like a couple years post that? I mean, we're already seeing things happen. Like Justin Bieber just had half of his face paralyzed. His wife just had a blood clot to the brain. I mean, this stuff, sudden adult death syndrome, has been trending on Twitter. What? I mean, people just don't want to believe that, people of this world could be so nefarious. They just want to chalk it up to whatever and just keep going on with their life. If it's not on their front doorstep and they don't have to deal with it, and it's a immediate problem in their life, they just really, I don't think, care. It's the same with the school shootings and all of this. It wasn't my kid, so we're still alive, so let's just keep going. I mean, that's why people turn away from important matters and issues, is because I don't think people necessarily have the capacity to deal with the level of this nefarious. There's such an extensive webbing system, and I don't think people understand where the root of things are coming from. They don't know how to go from the corporations to the government to secret societies, back to funded organizations at the World Economic Forum. I don't know if people have the mental capacity. I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people are super smart. A lot of the woke community is. I don't want to say they're not, but I mean that the common folk, I don't think have the unconscious ones, the ones that are kind of existing in the 3D, the physical reality is all that matters. They don't have the capacity at this point in their evolution to trace back and get to the core root of the things. That's what we need to do. We have to go to the core roots of the corruption, and we have to, basically for everything to shift, we'd have to reconstruct all of our global systems from the inside out, starting with the Vatican, starting with, the World Death Organization, starting with, so that we can't get everybody on the same page. We talked about the multidimensional of our genetic remembrance and our inheritance and our hybridization and the amnesia we're battling, that, nobody agrees on any moral level of substance anymore. Like what even fabrics us together as a community? We're all isolated and nobody's even connected. Through social media, but that's now become the predatorial field. The internet has now become the predatorial field. This is where the MK Ultra now comes through, is the black box. So it's it's just,
mine's got 5G. I'd like the 5G.
And that's a whole other thing. The 5G fear. 5G, first of all, it sucks, folks. If you've got a 5G phone, you know what I'm talking about. The speeds are not any faster. It doesn't have, at least I haven't noticed any speed. If anything, it's slower, but it's an extremely weak signal. But I think it's more for targeting, because you can get pinpoint accuracy with 5G, where they could track everything even better with more pinpoint accuracy. But if they really wanted to affect somebody's health and well-being and destroy somebody with EMF radiation, they could do it with plenty of other frequencies. I mean, you could you could just amp up certain frequencies that would be closer to what the human cycle is, like what the human resonance is, the natural resonance of the human body. Oh my gosh, I got a premiere coming on right now about the space origins of the Black Madonna on our YouTube channel. That's what I told you about. It's a crazy synchronicity. But what was it? Yeah. So like if they wanted to mess up the world, well, gee, 432 hertz, that's a beautiful frequency. It's a healing frequency. It's been around since the beginning of time. I mean, it's a sacred number. It's a sacred frequency. Well, I don't know how true this is. I don't know if it's true or not that the Rockefeller Foundation was a big part of changing the frequency from 440 to, or from 432 to 440. But this is a water sound image at 432 hertz, and then this is 440 hertz. And 440 hertz is more conscious suppressing. It's more of a disharmony, whereas 432 is harmony. I mean, that's what the cathedrals, the older cathedrals, are tuned at 432 hertz. How about the ancient king list? 10 kings rule for 432,000 years. It's a sacred number. And so you change the fields of the world into everybody turns on the TV or the radio, or, you know, they're listening to 440 versus 432. It's going to cause a little bit of disharmony. And not only can you influence the human body and the brain when somebody's not in harmony with their life path, but it's easier to control people. Mm-hmm. Just that little twist, right? Just tweak it a little bit. Tweak things a little bit, and you can keep populations running in circles, running for that carrot at the end of the stick that doesn't exist, while the few elite are controlling the show. They're very smart, and some of them feel that they are predestined, that they are given the keys from the kingdom. And some of them truly feel that way based upon their lineage. And it's like, now we're at a point where this transition in the zodiac we have transitioned to the age of Aquarius, and it's up to the people now to do something about it. You can either stay in, you can stay in that control matrix, or you can make your own matrix. It's up to you. You can stay in the corner and say, oh, you know, the world's going to end. If, you know, you bring up an idea like cryptos are going to crash. Oh, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Hey, that might happen. But geez, if you've got an opportunity right now to have some fun with it and be successful, do it. You know, don't sit in the corner and blame everybody for all your problems unless you want to. I mean, some people choose to do that, but you can tweak your mind and you can tweak your life. And that's my rant. $9.95. Send it in. I'm just joking.
It's worth it. People send it in.
$10. Come on. Oh, geez. Well,
I mean, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. People gotta get willing to do the work. They gotta get willing to, if you gotta heal. If you gotta work through your trauma, work through your trauma. But you gotta find a way to believe in yourself again, and you gotta make it a priority. You know, you gotta put that above everything else, and just and find a way to help others. Find a way to be a supporter, step into your guardian roles, be a parental governor of this earth, and, you know, and get into mission. That's what galactic energy is all about. That's what cosmic energy is all about, is aligning people to mission. That's what the Swan template is about in the 3 days of light. So the 3 days of light, let me explain this before we forget to explain it. The 3 days of light is a prophecy that comes from supernova blast in the Cygnus system, where stars are exploding. There's actually one that's supposed to be exploding in the Cygnus system, even in July as we speak. I have found that most stars are actually birthing from the Cygnus system the most out of all other systems, because it is located in the Milky Way. And so because of all of these implosions and supernova blast waves, we're getting a lot of that gamma radiation that's supposed to be coming to Earth. I've said that Alex Collier has talked about this, but it's basically where we're integrating that slowly into the Earth's field. However 8 years it takes to get here, it's prophesized that light can come in July 2022, anywhere into the 22nd century. So it's kind of giving us a little bit of a timeline. But if 3 days of light were to happen, it would be kind of like a Genesis event where we would have no nighttime. Okay, it would be full on 3 days creational energy that would basically do a lot of things. It would completely restructure the carbon-based light body field to crystalline, to diamond crystalline structures. It would activate the diamond structures in the Earth. This goes all off of the diamond body. So it would activate the diamond crystal heart of the Earth. The diamond oceans up underneath the mantle of diamond pyramids would rise from the oceans. All of the snows obviously going to melt off of Antarctica. There's a circular diamond disk in Antarctica, and it would be a very diamond global activation. This is something that, all of the dark brotherhoods have been preventing from Atlantis, is from this great happening and transformation. That's why they've set up all of their terrible stones in areas where there's diamond mines on the earth, is to try to stop those diamond energies from expanding in the earth's field on a spiritual level and rehabilitating and rectifying what has been lost here. And so basically, if this happens, it would be a great prophecy of transformation, and it could bring forth the third Messiah. It could do all kinds of things. If you go to my website, I have a list under my blogs called the 3 Days of Light and what to expect. And I have an entire list of what one could expect if the 3 Days of Light was to come and happen. And I've been talking about this a lot on my channel because I just feel like it's, I guess, gives people some hope that, or the ability to see into what the higher realms are constructing on a level of the grids inside the light matrices. It's ultra light matrices, and it's all super advanced stuff. Well, we make it super advanced with our technical terms, but were you able to find that blog? Because I can't rattle it off the top of my head here.
Blog. Here we go. I was showing off your YouTube channel. Let me pull up the blog.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Here's your blog. And which one was it?
It is what you can expect from the 3 Days of Light.
Yep, here it is, right here.
And awesome. And then if you click on it and scroll down a little bit, I have a list of things you can expect from 3 Days of Light. So the culmination of the second creation, light templating, reconstruction will illuminate the firmament. Light will access the deepest, darkest spaces on the earth. That's what the swan wings represent, is going from the Grand Canyon to the Mariana Trench. So when all this light penetrates the grids for 3 days from the inside, it's going to expand from the deepest, darkest places. And I do believe that's probably where the darkness of humanity resides, is down in these dark trenches where no light can escape or access whatsoever. So it'll be a massive collective awakening, fourth eye, soul opening event that reconstructs the collective soul monadic field. 22-second chakra system and higher will be opened. It will reverse the plagues, the apocalypse, the revelations, the trumpets, the seals, and the extensive seal matrices. So it's not just the J seals. We have Lemurian implant seals. We have Atlantean seals. We have Aryan seals. We have monarchy seals. We have Vatican seals. We have Baphomet seals. I mean, all of this stuff is going to dissolve. It will dissolve the negative egos, and the planetary pain body will open up to the 0 point field. All division and duality will be removed for 3 whole days. End of ordinary realities, as they will all merge in union with the divine. Coming of the third Messiah. Kings, leaders, ministers, presidents will make peace with each other. Olive branch codes will activate. Restoration of our youthful appearances. Fountain of youth will release. People will have more peaceful deaths. Alien hybridization traumas will be healed, and bloodlines will unify. Could be some resurrection of the dead. And many will enter into a constant state of dream walking existence. So this could be something that happens where everybody's kind of in a lucid state here during this time. And it could be a creation of a new heaven, unified and linked into 7 higher harmonic universes. Ancient grandmother Lemurian codes will restore all, which means that all of those 13 crystal skulls, that all of the sacred teachings were encoded into the Atlantis 13 crystal skulls, that energy will activate from particular sacred sites that are still holding the key codes to that, such as Machu Picchu, Uluru, Lake Titicaca. I do feel that the Niagara Falls could be one of those places as well, Mount Shasta, all of these places, right? All of these locations that are really holding the sacred keys will hold those key codes to those and restore all of that energy. And so we'll all come to further understand what freedom means if this event was to take place. So this is different than an actual solar flare or a solar event. Or it could be one and the same. It just depends how it would come to happen on this earth, whether it was a solar flare event. It could be that way too. I kind of been getting a lot of messages that it could be some sort of simultaneous event where some of the collective is going through this 3 days of light experience while the other is going through a blackout. That's something we might not even be able to escape, just because the consciousness of our universal system is so, it's a barred system. So its architecture is it's polarized. So it could come in that way, that half of the world is experiencing a blackout. I mean, you see Australia right now with their grids and talking about preservation of all of their electricity and all this stuff. I mean, we're looking at Australia right now. They might be going through a blackout. So I hope it wouldn't come in polarized. I hope it would be something that would be so globally healing and so unifying of all of the misery programs here, that it would give us a leg up in overcoming and getting humanity on the right track.
Right on. Well, that's really cool. And so I wanted to also, before we finish up, I wanted to show off your YouTube channel one more time. It's IndigoAngel. And when you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell. So there's the bell for all notifications. And it looks like you actually talked about this a few months ago. That's great. It's doing very well on your channel. And then your website, once again, right here. So you have, you offer different services. You've got a really cool shop. You have some
I wanted to
membership.
say too, I did do a Leak Project coupon code that would give anybody 10% off of my services, just for everyone on this channel, just because I love you guys so much. And so yeah, 10% off anything.
Cool.
So
Do they just,
it's Leak Project, all one word, lowercase.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go, folks. Membership has its privileges. And thank you, Indy. This was a great conversation. I'm going to upload most of this on YouTube. We are going to probably leave about 20 minutes of it because it was a bit on the free speech side, right? We're going to have that free speech stuff for YouTube, or not. No, wait. And you know what I meant, folks. I love YouTube. I do, but they got certain, there's certain obligations that they have to keep. So their advertisers and stuff don't like people talking about certain things, unfortunately. So that's okay. That's what we got the website for, is we can talk about whatever we want here. We got the Constitution, and that's one of the reasons I put tens of thousands of dollars into this website, literally, is so that we can talk about whatever we want to. And we've got a great chat. We've got a lot of people in the chat. They seem to really enjoy this. I was reading through some of the comments. She reminds me of Elizabeth April. Elizabeth's really cool too. That's what somebody said. Zen Uru. Thank you, Thief in a Night. I think I know who you are now. Oh no, that's Carmine. And so what else? Yeah, they seem to really enjoy
Elizabeth
this.
April. I'll have to figure out who she is. I haven't heard of her.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. Somebody said Elon is being sued for fraud over Doggy Coin. Yeah, I think they're suing him for 248 billion. I don't know if they'll get anything, but I want to ask you one more question and finishing up here. Do you really think that's going to happen? Like, do you think we're going to turn into crystalline beings and stuff?
I think anything is possible. Yes, I really do. I receive the download before I talk about it. So it's almost as if that gridding, that light grid, is installed into me. So that way I can then transmit from that place, and I can create that reality for other people to have a connection point to it. So I'm creating a reality tunnel to open up the potential, because here's the thing. We all collectively create this reality here. Okay, so if we can't create those potentials in people's minds to understand that there's more possibility, even no matter how otherworldly it can possibly sound. I mean, Elon Musk stalling life on Mars. Really? We're going to go to Mars? Like, there's no oxygen. There's like windstorms that obliterate everything. We're going to go live there? Okay, sure. People believe it. We're all creating this reality together. And so we have to keep this potential hope and the tunnels open so people can go through them and live through that and experience it, embody the frequency themselves. And the more people embody the future okay, so I've read a lot of Lori Adele Toy's work as well, IamAmerica.com. And this is incredible stuff. She has future maps of what the world is going to look like a couple hundred years from now, and how the land mass is going to rise back up. We will have new Lemurian land again. We will have new islands that come off the coast of South America and the Pacific Islands. Waters will collapse into the United States. We are evolving with the Earth. And so what it's going to look like a couple hundred years from now is going to be radically different than what we have now. And so, yeah, I think anything's possible.
I like that. Absolutely. I respect that. And, I've seen things happen in my life that I at one point didn't think was possible at all. I've been able to do things that I didn't think were possible. So you got to believe it before you can see it. And folks, on that note, I want to thank you all for being here with us. I think you're amazing. I really appreciate you watching the shows. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate your comments and your thumbs up and sharing the videos, and appreciate all that you do. And check us back out here at 2:00 on the website. We are going to have a really great conversation with Mark Lerner. He is a professional astrologer. He's been doing it for like 50 years. So, wow. And be the change you want to see. Thanks, Indy.
Bye. Thank you.